In a bustling cafe, everyone noticed the tired mother fumbling to pay for her meal, her face flushed with embarrassment as she searched her wallet desperately. But only Ellie, the young cafe worker barely scraping by herself, stepped forward to quietly pay the woman's tab, never guessing this single act of compassion would soon turn her life upside down. What Ellie didn't realize, that struggling mother was hiding a secret worth millions, and Ellie was about to discover that kindness doesn't just warm hearts, it can change lives forever. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? The cold dawn seeped through the cracks in Ellie's tiny apartment window, waking her long before the blare of her alarm could. She stared at the cracked ceiling for a moment, gathering strength to face another relentless day. She could hear the muffled sounds of her younger brother Alex shuffling around the kitchen, probably searching the cabinets for breakfast. Ellie swung her feet to the chilly floor and pulled on her worn slippers, forcing a weary smile into place as she stepped into the cramped living room. "Morning, Elle," Alex said softly, already dressed for school, a faded backpack slung loosely over his thin shoulders. His eyes were hopeful, yet hesitant, a silent question hanging in the air. She forced her voice to sound brighter than she felt. "Morning, bud. Let me whip something up quick, okay?" Ellie opened the cabinets, knowing exactly what she'd find. A box of cereal, nearly empty, and a loaf of bread, a few slices shy of gone. She frowned slightly, calculating how far her last few dollars could stretch. Alex shifted anxiously behind her, pretending he wasn't hungry, but Ellie knew better. Her chest tightened, frustration at her circumstances bubbling beneath her calm facade. "Here," she said, passing him a slice of bread smeared thinly with peanut butter. Alex glanced at the plate, then back at her, sensing the hesitation. "Aren't you eating?" he asked quietly. Ellie shook her head lightly, lying through an easy smile. "Had something earlier. Hurry up, though. The bus will be here soon." As Alex ate, she moved to the window, pulling back the tattered curtain slightly. Outside, the early morning street was alive with activity. Neighbors heading off to work, buses rumbling by, children walking in groups towards the school. Ellie pressed her forehead gently against the cool glass, her breath fogging her reflection. Another day, another battle to make ends meet. Her shift at the cafe wouldn't start for another hour, but she already felt the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her shoulders. When Alex finally left, Ellie quickly dressed in her worn cafe uniform, her apron frayed at the edges, but immaculately clean. She paused at the mirror, smoothing her hair back and forcing herself to straighten her posture. No matter how tired or overwhelmed she felt, Ellie knew she had to keep going, not just for herself, but for Alex. Grabbing her keys and inhaling sharply, she stepped out into the crisp morning air, ready to face whatever challenges waited ahead. The morning rush was already in full swing as Ellie balanced 3 steaming plates, weaving expertly through the crowded cafe. Laughter and clinking dishes filled the small space, but Ellie kept her practiced smile even as exhaustion gnawed at the edges of her patience. Just as she set the plates down at table 5, the bell above the cafe door jingled sharply, drawing her attention. A woman stepped in, clearly out of place in this modest neighborhood diner. She wore an elegant cream-colored coat that looked as expensive as the cafe's monthly rent, yet her expression was tense, almost anxious, as she hesitated by the entrance. She scanned the bustling cafe with uncertainty before slowly choosing an isolated corner table. Ellie approached, notepad in hand, offering her brightest, most reassuring smile. "Good morning. What can I get started for you?" The woman glanced up, startled by Ellie's cheerful voice. Her perfectly manicured fingers fumbled briefly with the menu. Just a coffee and the scrambled eggs, please," she said softly, her voice holding a faint tremor that surprised Ellie. As Ellie prepared the order, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Glancing discreetly at the woman, she noticed her nervously checking her phone repeatedly, biting her lower lip as worry etched faint lines around her eyes. It was an odd contrast, the expensive clothes and the vulnerability that radiated from her every small movement. When Ellie finally brought the steaming cup of coffee and plate of eggs, the woman forced a polite but strained smile. "Thank you," she murmured, quickly avoiding Ellie's gaze. The cafe gradually emptied, and soon the woman motioned for the check. Ellie slipped the small black folder onto the table and turned away to clear a nearby booth. Behind her, she heard the rustle of a purse and then a sharp, anxious intake of breath. I'm sorry." The woman stammered suddenly, her voice edged with embarrassment. Ellie turned back, seeing panic flicker across her face. As she hurriedly searched her expensive purse, I thought I had more cash. My card isn't... it's not going through." Her voice fell into a whisper, eyes bright with humiliation. "I'm sorry. This is so embarrassing." Ellie's heart clenched at the woman's distress. Without hesitation, she stepped closer, leaning gently toward her. "Don't worry," she whispered softly, slipping the check discreetly into her apron pocket. "It's covered." The woman's eyes widened, clearly startled. "No, you can't." "It's okay," Ellie said calmly, her gentle tone firm yet reassuring. "We all have these days. It's really no trouble." For a moment, the woman stared at Ellie in stunned silence, her perfectly poised demeanor slipping as gratitude and something deeper, something Ellie couldn't quite read, filled her expression. Ellie just nodded warmly, turning away to hide the flush of embarrassment and compassion that crept up her cheeks. Neither realized that in this small, humble act, a connection had just been forged, one destined to change both their lives forever. Ellie returned to the counter, the folded check burning gently against her fingertips as she discreetly slipped it next to the register. Her co-worker, Maria, gave her a questioning look, eyebrows knitting together in confusion. "Ellie, did that lady not pay?" Maria whispered sharply, glancing nervously at the elegant woman who was gathering her belongings, visibly flustered and embarrassed. Ellie shook her head quickly, her voice low but firm. "It's fine, Maria. I took care of it. Don't worry." Maria raised her eyebrows incredulously. "You barely make enough yourself. You shouldn't." Ellie silenced her gently with a reassuring look, eyes soft but steady. "Really, it's okay. She's clearly having a rough morning." From across the cafe, Vanessa watched the exchange curiously, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment and gratitude, emotions she had rarely allowed herself to feel openly. She knew kindness, but only from afar. Genuine acts of compassion without expectation were a rarity in her carefully guarded life. Vanessa slowly stood, smoothing down the front of her pristine coat. She hesitated, conflicted, then approached Ellie, her expensive heels clicking softly against the cafe's worn tile floor. "Please," she murmured quietly, holding out a sleek business card. "Let me repay you. I insist. I don't want you to struggle because of my mistake." Ellie glanced down at the elegant card, the embossed letters glittering subtly beneath the fluorescent cafe lights. For a moment, the weight of her financial burdens pressed down on her chest. It would be so easy, so justified, to accept the help. But something deeper held her back. She met Vanessa's eyes gently, her voice calm but unwavering. "Thank you, but it was my choice. No repayment necessary. Just pay it forward someday, okay?" Vanessa's hand hovered in the air, still holding out the business card, clearly uncertain how to handle Ellie's gentle refusal. After a lingering moment, she slowly drew her hand back, astonished, yet deeply moved. "Who are you?" Vanessa asked quietly, her eyes full of genuine curiosity and wonder. Ellie smiled warmly, her expression open and sincere. "Just Ellie. Nothing special, I promise." Vanessa lingered a moment longer, almost studying Ellie's kind face, searching for some deeper meaning behind this unexpected gesture. Finally, she nodded slowly, slipping the business card back into her purse, her gaze still fixed thoughtfully on Ellie. "Thank you," Vanessa whispered again softly, her voice barely audible yet heavy with sincerity. She turned and quietly walked out of the cafe, leaving behind a scent of subtle perfume and a palpable air of mystery. As the cafe door jingled closed, Ellie let out a slow breath, unaware that she had just altered the trajectory of two lives. Vanessa sat quietly in the back seat of her luxury sedan, her gaze fixed thoughtfully out the window as the world blurred by. Her mind kept drifting back to the humble cafe and to Ellie, the girl whose simple act of kindness had stirred something deep within her, something she hadn't felt in years. She replayed the scene over and over, the genuine warmth in Ellie's eyes, the quiet strength behind her refusal to accept repayment, the compassion hidden beneath her modest uniform. "James," she said quietly, addressing her driver, "can you find out more about someone for me?" He glanced back briefly through the rearview mirror, eyebrows raised in subtle surprise. Vanessa rarely showed interest in others beyond her immediate world. "Of course, ma'am. Who?" "Her name is Ellie," Vanessa murmured softly, almost to herself. "She works at that cafe on Maple Street. I want to know her story, everything." By evening, James returned with a slim folder. Vanessa took it carefully, feeling strangely uneasy. The paper trembled slightly in her hands as she opened it, and as she read, a slow, heavy ache built inside her chest. The details were stark, painful. Ellie, 22, had lost her parents in a car accident 2 years earlier, abruptly taking responsibility for her younger brother, Alex. They lived together in a cramped, run-down apartment, scraping by paycheck to paycheck. Vanessa felt a tight knot form in her throat, her breath hitching as she read about Ellie's selfless acts around the neighborhood, often sharing what little food she had, donating her time at local shelters, even though her own situation bordered on desperation. Vanessa lowered the papers, her gaze drifting towards the darkening sky outside. She felt a pang of guilt ripple through her. Her own problems suddenly felt trivial, insignificant even, in comparison to the hardships Ellie quietly endured each day. Here was a girl who, despite facing overwhelming challenges, still found the strength to offer kindness freely, without expectation or reward. "How does someone remain so selfless?" Vanessa whispered softly to herself, "when life has given them so little?" Her eyes returned to the folder, drawn to Ellie's smiling photo, a candid shot, snapped by someone in the neighborhood. Vanessa studied her gentle expression, the sincerity shining brightly even through ink on paper. She felt inexplicably connected to this young woman, whose quiet strength made her own guarded walls feel shallow and brittle. She placed the folder aside and sat silently, a decision slowly forming in her heart. She didn't yet know exactly how or why, but she understood, deep within herself, that she needed to do something meaningful, something real, something that might begin to heal both their lives. The sprawling mansion Vanessa called home was filled with every comfort money could buy, but tonight, as she stepped through its echoing halls, it felt emptier than ever. Chandeliers glittered softly overhead, casting golden pools of light across marble floors, yet no warmth reached her heart. She slipped off her elegant coat, setting it carefully over a velvet-upholstered chair, and let out a weary breath. Despite her wealth, despite the luxury surrounding her, Vanessa felt isolated in a way she couldn't explain even to herself. She walked quietly into her expansive living room, its grandeur amplified by the heavy silence. Her eyes drifted toward a polished grand piano standing silently in the corner. It had belonged to her late husband, Edward, a man she had once loved passionately, but whose tragic passing had left her world colorless and numb. Edward had filled these walls with laughter, music, life. Now, the piano remained untouched, collecting dust as an ever-present reminder of her loss. Vanessa's gaze moved slowly toward a row of ornate frames lining the mantel above the marble fireplace. They held carefully posed family portraits, her parents, siblings, nieces, nephews, all smiling stiffly, their eyes betraying a distant coldness beneath the veneer of family unity. Her family's fortune had always overshadowed genuine connection, creating relationships built on convenience rather than love. Vanessa felt a tightness in her chest. She couldn't remember the last time they'd truly spoken, truly connected. Even now, living within mere miles of her siblings, she rarely saw them beyond forced family events. She sank slowly onto her plush ivory sofa, the cushions enveloping her in softness. But comfort eluded her. She stared at her phone, its screen blank. No missed calls or messages, no one checking in, no friends or family reaching out. It had become her reality, extravagant isolation, surrounded by everything but genuine human connection. And yet, Ellie's image flashed vividly in her mind again. The young waitress had shown more kindness and sincerity in one brief interaction than Vanessa had felt in years. Ellie, who had nothing, had willingly given everything, even when no one was watching, even when there was nothing to gain. A strange longing stirred within Vanessa's heart. What was it Ellie understood about life that had eluded Vanessa, despite her wealth, power, and status? Vanessa leaned back against the sofa, a profound loneliness washing over her like an icy wave. Money could purchase anything except true friendship, love, or the kind of genuine kindness Ellie embodied so effortlessly. She realized, with piercing clarity, she'd built a magnificent empire around herself, but it was an empty fortress, guarded by walls of privilege that kept the world and life's true warmth forever out of reach. Ellie closed the apartment door quietly behind her, leaning against it with a heavy sigh as she took a moment to gather her strength. It was already dark outside, the evening air leaking through the cracked window panes, making the tiny apartment feel colder than usual. She set her keys down gently, careful not to wake her younger siblings, who were sprawled out asleep on the old sofa, their worn blankets barely sufficient against the creeping chill. Her younger brother Alex lay curled protectively around their sister Ava, his small arm draped gently over her tiny shoulder. Ellie felt a pang deep in her chest, a mix of gratitude and guilt. At 15, Alex was too young to carry such weight, yet he'd grown up too quickly, learning to shield Ava from their harsh reality. She walked quietly into the kitchen, flipping the dim overhead bulb, which flickered weakly, casting gloomy shadows across the peeling wallpaper. Ellie opened the cabinets carefully, trying to muffle the creaking hinges. Inside, the shelves were sparse, revealing a single can of soup, some dry pasta, and a few slices of stale bread. Her stomach twisted uneasily, reminding her she'd skipped breakfast and lunch to save food for her siblings. She bit her lip, fighting back the familiar wave of frustration that rose in her throat. She quickly warmed up the soup, diluting it generously with water to stretch it further, setting bowls carefully on the table. Ellie gently nudged Alex awake. He stirred immediately, blinking up at her with tired, grateful eyes. Ava woke shortly after, rubbing sleepily at her face, still clutching her favorite worn-out stuffed animal. "Ellie, aren't you eating?" Alex asked quietly, his voice tinged with worry, as he noticed the 2 bowls instead of 3. "I'm fine, Alex," Ellie lied softly, forcing a warm smile. "I ate earlier at work. You two finish this up." She watched as they ate, pretending to busy herself tidying up the kitchen, keeping her back turned so they wouldn't see the exhaustion etched on her face. Ellie felt deeply inadequate, torn apart by the heavy burden of responsibility that constantly rested on her young shoulders. After cleaning up, she tucked them back onto the sofa, pulling the thin blankets up around their shoulders, lingering a moment longer to smooth Ava's hair. In the stillness afterward, Ellie stood quietly by the window, gazing out into the dark night. She fought the rising ache in her chest, blinking back tears of frustration and helplessness. No matter how hard she worked or how carefully she planned, the relentless pressure never eased. Yet, despite the overwhelming struggle, she knew she couldn't give up. Her siblings depended on her strength, and somehow she had to keep going. The gentle chime of the cafe door drew Ellie's eyes upward, pulling her momentarily away from the plates she balanced carefully on her arm. Her breath caught softly as she recognized Vanessa stepping hesitantly inside, looking just as out of place, and oddly vulnerable, as before. This time Vanessa chose a table near the back, tucked away but perfectly positioned to observe Ellie without drawing attention. Ellie quickly moved through her tasks, warmly greeting regulars, carefully remembering their favorite orders, checking quietly on an elderly gentleman who often sat alone. From her hidden corner, Vanessa watched, fascinated and touched by the quiet strength and warmth that Ellie radiated, despite the obvious fatigue lining her young face. A sudden commotion startled them both. A young mother at a nearby table was frantically searching her purse, face turning pale. Ellie immediately moved towards her, crouching beside the distressed woman. Vanessa strained discreetly to listen. I don't know what happened," the mother stammered tearfully, her voice choked with embarrassment. "I swear I had enough for lunch. My son, he's hungry. I'm so sorry." Ellie gently laid her hand on the woman's arm, her voice calm and reassuring. "Hey, it's okay. Take a breath. I got you." Vanessa watched intently, heart twisting, as Ellie discreetly slid money from her own pocket onto the woman's table, hiding the act beneath a napkin. The mother looked up, eyes filling with stunned gratitude. "I promise I'll pay you back," she whispered, voice quivering. Ellie shook her head firmly, her expression gentle but resolute. "No need. Just promise you'll take care of yourself and your little one. Okay?" Vanessa felt a strange heaviness in her chest, touched deeply by the simple yet profound kindness Ellie showed. Her own eyes blurred slightly, emotions she'd carefully buried resurfacing in unexpected waves. She'd rarely seen such compassion, let alone from someone who had so little herself. Throughout the afternoon, Vanessa quietly observed Ellie's every gesture, the sincere way she listened to customers, the patience she showed toward the elderly, the quiet dignity she maintained, even as exhaustion and strain visibly wore her down. Ellie moved through life carrying the burdens of others on top of her own, yet never seemed to falter. When Ellie finally retreated to the kitchen for a brief moment alone, Vanessa rose quietly, leaving a generous tip tucked discreetly under her coffee cup. As she stepped back onto the street, she glanced one final time through the cafe window. Her heart tugged powerfully, stirring something deep within, a yearning to help, to connect, to ease the pain of someone who'd given so much, so freely. Vanessa knew, in that instant, she couldn't simply observe from afar any longer. Somehow, Ellie's quiet bravery had broken through her own barriers, leaving Vanessa determined not only to understand this remarkable young woman, but to find a way to change her life for the better. Ellie finished wiping down the last table in the empty cafe, her arms aching with exhaustion from another grueling shift. The gentle clink of the bell startled her, making her heart skip as she turned toward the door. Standing quietly in the dimming evening light was Vanessa, her elegant coat wrapped neatly around her shoulders, a hesitant, uncertain smile playing across her lips. Ellie straightened, quickly smoothing her hands over her apron as confusion flickered briefly across her tired face. "Oh, hi again," Ellie offered softly, her tone friendly but curious. "Hello, Ellie," Vanessa said warmly, stepping closer, her heels clicking gently across the worn cafe floor. "I hope I'm not intruding?" Ellie shook her head, offering a reassuring smile. "Not at all. Can I get you something? Coffee, maybe?" Vanessa hesitated, her eyes thoughtful as she studied Ellie carefully. "Actually, I'm here because of you," she confessed gently. "I've noticed how hard you work here and how kind you are, how much you give, even when you're clearly exhausted." Ellie felt warmth rise to her cheeks, embarrassment mixing with gratitude. She glanced down nervously, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "It's really nothing special," she murmured humbly, her voice soft with sincerity. "But it is," Vanessa insisted gently, her voice firm yet compassionate. "And I'd like to offer you something, a better opportunity." Ellie's heart jolted with cautious hope, though suspicion lingered beneath. Her eyes met Vanessa's, questioning, wary of generosity that seemed too good to be true. "What kind of opportunity?" Vanessa smiled softly, sensing Ellie's hesitance. "I own a small bookstore downtown," she lied smoothly, guarding her true identity carefully. "I need someone I can trust, someone genuine and hard-working. It would pay significantly more than you make here, and you'd have more flexible hours. You could spend more time with your siblings." Ellie froze, startled. How did she know about Alex and Ava? Embarrassment flickered through her, but it was quickly replaced by cautious hope. The offer was tempting, but years of struggle had taught her to be wary of kindness from strangers. "Why me?" Ellie asked softly, her voice carrying a subtle tremor of vulnerability. Vanessa paused, choosing her words carefully. "Because I see your potential, and because someone with your kindness deserves a chance. Nothing more complicated than that." Ellie hesitated, her thoughts racing. Her pride whispered doubts, yet the aching weariness deep in her bones longed for relief. She imagined being home earlier, making better meals for her siblings, not constantly worrying about rent or groceries. Her eyes searched Vanessa's gentle, sincere face for any sign of deception, finding only compassion. Taking a shaky breath, Ellie finally nodded softly, her voice filled with cautious acceptance. "Okay, I'll give it a try." Vanessa smiled warmly, relief visibly washing over her features. "You won't regret it, Ellie. I promise." As Vanessa walked back out into the chilly night, Ellie stood quietly, heart pounding uncertainly in her chest. She didn't fully understand this sudden turn in her fortune, yet something inside told her to trust, to embrace this fragile thread of hope, and believe that perhaps things might finally get better. Ellie stood at the grand carved doors of Vanessa's so-called small bookstore, her heart thumping anxiously in her chest. As she stepped inside, she immediately knew something wasn't quite right. The room was expansive, filled with towering shelves of polished oak and gleaming brass accents. Soft classical music drifted gently through hidden speakers, creating an atmosphere of refined elegance Ellie had only glimpsed in magazines. Vanessa approached warmly, her expression kind, yet slightly hesitant, as if watching carefully for Ellie's reaction. "Welcome, Ellie. I'm so glad you're here." Ellie forced a nervous smile, struggling to reconcile the grand space with the humble bookstore she'd imagined. "Thank you for the opportunity. This place, it's incredible," she murmured, her voice tinged with quiet awe. Vanessa's eyes softened. "I know it's a lot to take in, but you'll fit in perfectly. Let me show you around." As Vanessa guided her through the pristine aisles filled with first editions and rare literary treasures, Ellie couldn't shake the surreal feeling settling in her chest. Every step echoed quietly on polished marble floors. Every breath felt hesitant, careful, as though she might disturb the fragile beauty around her. She discreetly glanced down at her own worn sneakers, suddenly painfully aware of how they contrasted sharply with the luxurious surroundings. Later, in Vanessa's private office, the contrast deepened. Crystal chandeliers sparkled softly overhead, illuminating walls lined with intricate artwork. Ellie hesitated, hovering uncertainly near the door, feeling completely out of place in her faded jeans and humble sweater. "Ellie, sit," Vanessa urged gently, sensing her unease. She gestured to a plush chair across from her intricately carved desk. "I know this must feel strange at first, but please believe you're exactly where you're meant to be." Ellie sank down carefully, forcing her nervous hands to stay still in her lap. "This bookstore, it's yours?" Ellie questioned softly, curiosity edging her voice. Vanessa nodded quietly, her gaze distant, masking deeper truths Ellie wasn't yet ready to learn. "It is, but please treat it as your own. Help shape it into something warm and welcoming, something real." As days passed, Ellie adapted cautiously, slowly becoming familiar with Vanessa's world of hidden luxury. Yet, despite Vanessa's generosity and kindness, Ellie couldn't shake the sense of secrecy lingering beneath her employer's gentle smile. She noticed Vanessa, occasionally staring wistfully through the large picture window, her eyes clouded with quiet melancholy, as if trapped behind invisible walls built from loneliness and regret. One afternoon, as Ellie carefully sorted a stack of delicate leather-bound novels, she overheard Vanessa softly speaking on the phone in a tense, strained voice. "No, they haven't visited in months," Vanessa murmured, her voice carrying a quiet ache Ellie instantly recognized. "I doubt they ever will." Ellie's heart twisted gently with empathy, understanding something deeper about Vanessa's life. Beneath all the polished elegance, hidden behind layers of privilege and beauty, Vanessa was just as isolated and vulnerable as Ellie herself had felt countless times. As Vanessa finished her call, Ellie quickly resumed her task, pretending she hadn't overheard. But something profound had shifted within her, an understanding, a connection, bridging their vastly different worlds, and for the first time Ellie realized she wasn't the only one carrying a burden far heavier than anyone else could see. The weeks passed quickly, each day pulling Ellie deeper into Vanessa's elegant, carefully curated world. Ellie worked diligently, embracing her new responsibilities. But beneath the surface of this luxurious existence, she still felt a lingering uncertainty, a quiet suspicion that Vanessa was holding back something important. One afternoon, Vanessa approached Ellie quietly as she arranged books on a shelf. Her expression was warm, yet Ellie sensed a subtle tension beneath her gentle demeanor. "Ellie," Vanessa began softly, her voice tinged with vulnerability, "I need your help with something." Ellie turned toward her immediately, concern flashing through her gentle eyes. "Of course. Anything." Vanessa hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I need you to handle an important delivery today. It's a valuable first edition collection, and it needs to be taken directly to a buyer's home. Normally I handle this myself, but I trust you." Ellie's heart sped slightly, recognizing the subtle test behind Vanessa's careful request. "I won't let you down," Ellie assured her earnestly, eyes sincere and determined. She carried the delicate books carefully, driving them herself across town, feeling the weight of Vanessa's trust resting heavily on her shoulders. When she arrived at the extravagant estate, Ellie handed over the collection to a severe-looking older gentleman who eyed her skeptically, his sharp gaze silently questioning her humble appearance. "You came alone?" he asked abruptly, suspicion thick in his voice. "Yes," Ellie responded firmly, feeling uneasy under his cold scrutiny, but standing her ground unwavering. "Vanessa entrusted me with this personally." Returning to the bookstore, Ellie saw Vanessa's subtle relief and pride masked carefully behind a grateful smile. "You did wonderfully," Vanessa murmured warmly, placing a gentle hand on Ellie's shoulder. Days later, Vanessa subtly tested her again, this time leaving an unsealed envelope containing a large sum of cash openly on the counter near Ellie's workspace. Ellie found it immediately, her breath hitching slightly at the sight of more money than she'd seen in months. Her heart fluttered anxiously, knowing how much her family could use it. Yet, without hesitation, she approached Vanessa quietly, handing her the envelope carefully, eyes sincere and steady. "You must have forgotten this," Ellie said softly, meeting Vanessa's eyes with quiet integrity. Vanessa studied Ellie carefully, something deep within her finally softening. She smiled softly, genuinely, accepting the envelope gently. "Thank you, Ellie," she murmured, her voice holding a new depth of sincerity. "You're truly remarkable." As Ellie walked away, Vanessa watched thoughtfully, her trust firmly solidified. Ellie had passed each test without realizing she'd been tested at all. She demonstrated genuine sincerity and unwavering integrity, and Vanessa felt profoundly grateful to have found someone so deeply trustworthy in a world where honesty was rare. That evening, as Ellie quietly prepared to head home, Vanessa stopped her gently by the door, her eyes filled with an unexpected warmth. "Ellie," Vanessa began softly, choosing her words carefully, You've shown me that kindness and honesty still exist. Thank you." Ellie paused, deeply touched by Vanessa's sincerity. "You've given me so much already, Vanessa. I'm the one who should be grateful." As Ellie walked into the quiet evening, Vanessa stood silently, knowing the bond forming between them was stronger than any test could measure. For the first time in years, Vanessa felt genuine trust she vowed never to betray. Ellie stood nervously at her apartment door, hand hovering anxiously over the doorknob. Behind her, Vanessa stood patiently, her expression gentle, eyes understanding. Ellie hesitated, embarrassment warming her cheeks as she imagined Vanessa stepping into their humble, cramped home, so starkly different from the elegant surroundings she was accustomed to. Taking a deep breath, Ellie opened the door, revealing a small, modest apartment filled with warmth despite the peeling wallpaper and threadbare carpet. Alex and Ava looked up immediately from their spot on the faded couch, curiosity bright in their wide eyes as they saw the elegant stranger beside Ellie. "Guys, this is Vanessa," Ellie said softly, voice tight with quiet apprehension. "Vanessa, these are my siblings, Alex and Ava." Alex rose first, his young face serious but welcoming as he extended a hesitant hand. "Nice to meet you," he said politely, eyes quietly protective as they flicked towards Ellie. Vanessa's heart warmed deeply, touched by the quiet dignity he carried, so similar to his older sister's. "It's very nice to meet you too, Alex," she replied gently, shaking his hand warmly. Ava stepped forward shyly, clutching her worn teddy bear tightly. "You're very pretty," she whispered softly, eyes wide with innocent admiration. Vanessa smiled warmly, her heart melting at the child's sweet sincerity. Not as pretty as you," she replied gently, earning a shy giggle from Ava. Ellie watched anxiously, shoulders tense, but slowly relaxed as Vanessa gracefully navigated their small, cluttered space without judgment. She sat comfortably at their humble kitchen table, listening attentively as Alex eagerly talked about school, asking thoughtful questions and genuinely interested in every small detail. After dinner, a modest meal Ellie had prepared carefully despite their limited resources, Vanessa gently helped clear the table, effortlessly blending into their small routine. Ellie felt a strange warmth bloom in her chest, seeing Vanessa, elegant and poised, standing in her tiny kitchen, washing dishes with gentle ease. Later, as Ellie tucked Ava into bed, she paused in the doorway, her heart swelling softly at the sight of Vanessa sitting quietly with Alex, who was showing her his worn sketchbook filled with drawings he rarely shared with anyone. Vanessa's eyes were gentle, focused completely on the young boy, her expression holding genuine admiration. "He's very talented," Vanessa murmured softly, noticing Ellie in the doorway. "You've done such a remarkable job raising them." Ellie's eyes filled with quiet emotion, surprised by the sincerity in Vanessa's voice. I just try my best. They deserve more than I can give them." Vanessa stood gently, her voice firm yet compassionate. "You've given them love, strength, and kindness, Ellie. Those are priceless." When Vanessa finally said goodbye, Ellie walked her to the door, pausing uncertainly. Vanessa gently placed a reassuring hand on Ellie's shoulder. "Thank you for letting me in. Your family is beautiful." Ellie smiled softly, her voice warm and sincere. "You're always welcome here, Vanessa." As Vanessa stepped into the cool night, she felt a deep emotional shift. Ellie's humble home had offered her something no luxury or wealth could buy: genuine warmth and connection. Tonight, for the first time in a very long while, Vanessa felt truly part of a family, one defined not by blood or wealth, but by love and sincerity. Ellie arrived early at the bookstore, the morning sun just beginning to cast soft golden rays through the expansive windows. Vanessa hadn't arrived yet, and Ellie relished the quiet, peaceful moments alone, preparing the shop for the day. As she carefully tidied Vanessa's office, Her hand accidentally brushed against a leather-bound planner on the desk, knocking it gently to the floor. She bent swiftly, gathering the loose papers that scattered across the marble tiles. As she lifted the planner, a business card slipped from its pages, drifting softly to land face up near Ellie's feet. Picking it up slowly, Ellie's eyes widened in confusion. The elegant, embossed gold lettering gleamed beneath her fingers. Vanessa Caldwell, Caldwell Enterprises. Ellie stared, heart suddenly racing with uncertainty and confusion. Caldwell Enterprises was no small business. It was one of the largest and most influential corporations in the state. Ellie's mind spun with disbelief. Why would Vanessa, the gentle, thoughtful woman who ran this quiet bookstore, have connections to such wealth and power? Questions raced through her thoughts, yet Ellie couldn't deny the clear evidence she now held in her trembling hands. Driven by sudden curiosity, Ellie cautiously opened the planner, skimming through meticulously written appointments and notes. Her breath quickened at the realization that Vanessa's life extended far beyond the quiet bookstore, a life of board meetings, lavish events, and influential figures whose names Ellie recognized from news headlines. Her heart thudded anxiously, embarrassment mixing with hurt. Vanessa had always been kind, generous, and understanding, but had she been hiding this vast wealth deliberately? Ellie carefully closed the planner, returning it gently to its original place, feeling oddly betrayed, yet unwilling to confront the gentle woman who had changed her life so profoundly. Later, as Vanessa arrived, Ellie forced herself to smile warmly, trying desperately to mask the confusion swirling inside her. Yet now, small details she had overlooked before suddenly seemed glaringly obvious. Vanessa's expensive clothes, her understated elegance, the casual ease with which she handled high-priced collections in the store. Throughout the day, Ellie watched Vanessa quietly, her mind preoccupied. Was their relationship built on trust and genuine warmth, also built on secrecy and lies? Or was there another explanation, a deeper reason Vanessa hid her true identity? Ellie was torn between a growing ache of betrayal and a fierce desire to trust Vanessa's intentions. That evening, as they closed up the store together, Vanessa smiled softly, sensing Ellie's unusual silence. "Is everything okay, Ellie?" Ellie hesitated, her heart pounding nervously. Part of her desperately wanted to speak, to ask questions, to understand the hidden truths between them, but instead she forced herself to nod, her voice gentle yet strained. "Everything's fine, just a little tired." Vanessa paused, clearly sensing something more beneath Ellie's quiet words, yet choosing not to push further. She gently touched Ellie's shoulder, her eyes warm yet cautious. "All right. You know you can always talk to me, Ellie." Ellie nodded softly, turning away quickly to hide the confusion in her eyes. As she stepped into the chilly night, she knew one thing clearly. Secrets now stood quietly between them, creating cracks in the trust she'd come to value so deeply. Ellie had to know the truth, but she feared what answers might come when she finally found the courage to confront Vanessa. Ellie stood nervously outside Vanessa's office, her heart pounding furiously in her chest. She drew a slow breath, desperately trying to steady her nerves. All day she'd carried the weight of what she'd discovered, questions and confusion churning restlessly inside her. She couldn't keep pretending. She needed answers, and she needed them now. Gently pushing the heavy door open, Ellie found Vanessa at her desk, head bent in quiet contemplation over papers scattered neatly before her. Vanessa looked up, immediately sensing the tension in Ellie's posture. "Ellie," Vanessa began softly, eyes searching the younger woman's face carefully, "is everything all right?" Ellie stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly despite her best efforts. "Vanessa, I need to talk to you about something important." Vanessa's brow furrowed gently, a flicker of concern crossing her expression. "Of course. Sit down. What's troubling you?" Ellie remained standing, heart hammering nervously as she struggled to find words. "Yesterday, when I was cleaning your desk, I found your business card." She hesitated, forcing her gaze upwards, meeting Vanessa's startled eyes with quiet intensity. "You're not just the owner of a bookstore, are you?" Vanessa stiffened slightly, a shadow of guilt briefly passing across her face. "Ellie, I can explain. You're Vanessa Caldwell." Ellie continued, voice quiet but firm. "You're a millionaire, CEO of Caldwell Enterprises. Why would you hide something like that from me?" Vanessa sighed deeply, rising slowly from her chair. She walked carefully toward Ellie, stopping just short of reaching out to her. "Ellie, please understand. I never meant to deceive you." "But you did," Ellie whispered, hurt flickering openly across her face. "You knew everything about my life, everything. And you kept this huge secret. Why?" Vanessa's composure cracked slightly, vulnerability shining openly in her gentle eyes. "Because, Ellie, in my world, trust is rare. Money, power, it isolates you. People only see your wealth. They never see you." Vanessa's voice shook softly. "I was afraid you'd see me differently, that our friendship wouldn't feel genuine if you knew the truth." Ellie's heart twisted painfully, recognizing the deep loneliness Vanessa carried, yet she still felt wounded by the deception. "You could have trusted me. You asked me to trust you, but you couldn't do the same." Vanessa's eyes welled gently, revealing a depth of pain Ellie hadn't seen before. "You're right," she admitted softly. "I should have told you sooner. But I was afraid of losing the only real connection I've felt in years, your friendship, your kindness, Ellie. It's something I've longed for desperately, something money can't buy." Ellie's eyes softened, feeling the sincerity in Vanessa's words. Her own anger slowly gave way to understanding, empathy seeping gently through her hurt. She saw clearly, perhaps for the first time, how deeply Vanessa had struggled behind her polished facade. "Vanessa," Ellie whispered gently, stepping closer, "I don't care about your money or your status. I cared about your honesty." Vanessa nodded slowly, voice breaking softly. "I know. I'm sorry, Ellie. Truly sorry." Ellie reached out gently, touching Vanessa's trembling hand. "Please promise me. No more secrets. I need honesty, trust. Can you give me that?" Vanessa squeezed Ellie's hand softly, eyes glistening with quiet relief and deep gratitude. "Yes," she whispered earnestly, sincerity etched deeply in her words. "You deserve that, Ellie. You deserve my honesty. Always." As they stood quietly together in the soft evening glow filtering through the windows, Ellie felt the cracks between them slowly healing, replaced by a deeper, stronger bond. Vanessa's secrets had wounded her deeply, yet understanding the loneliness beneath the deception had opened a path toward forgiveness, and perhaps a trust stronger than either had known before. Ellie arrived early at the bookstore, the early morning quiet blanketing her in familiar calm. But today, beneath that familiar calm, an anxious uncertainty fluttered relentlessly in her chest. Ever since their difficult conversation, something had shifted between her and Vanessa, something deeper, more honest, yet Ellie couldn't quite grasp it fully. She was quietly organizing books on a shelf when Vanessa entered, her presence immediately filling the room with an intensity Ellie had come to recognize. Vanessa approached gently, her eyes tender, yet carrying the faintest flicker of nervousness. "Ellie," Vanessa said softly, her voice hesitant yet deeply earnest. "Could we talk for a moment?" Ellie turned toward her, heart fluttering anxiously as she nodded. "Of course," she murmured, following Vanessa toward the small sitting area nestled in the bookstore's quiet corner. They sat quietly facing each other, silence briefly stretching between them before Vanessa finally spoke, her voice gentle yet purposeful. "Ellie, ever since you came into my life, I've seen you constantly putting others first," Vanessa began softly, her eyes fixed warmly on Ellie's face. "You've sacrificed your own dreams, your own needs to care for your family. That kind of selflessness, it deserves recognition." Ellie's breath caught slightly, uncertainty flickering in her gentle eyes. Vanessa, you don't have to. Vanessa lifted her hand gently, stopping Ellie's protests kindly but firmly. Please, hear me out. I've arranged something. A scholarship, Ellie. One that covers your education completely. It includes tuition, housing, everything you need to finally pursue your dreams. Ellie stared, stunned, her heart racing as emotions surged painfully in her chest. I can't, she stammered softly, eyes shimmering with disbelief. This is too much, Vanessa. Vanessa leaned forward earnestly, sincerity glowing clearly in her gaze. No, Ellie, it's exactly what you deserve. You've given so much to others, let someone give something back to you now. Not only that, there's financial support to help your siblings too, so you can finally stop worrying. Ellie's throat tightened, her voice shaking slightly as tears threatened to overflow. Why are you doing this for me? After everything? Because I care about you, Vanessa whispered softly, voice thick with quiet emotion. Because you've shown me what real kindness and strength look like. Ellie, you've changed my life more than you'll ever understand. Ellie's hands trembled gently in her lap, struggling against the weight of her own disbelief. She'd grown so accustomed to hardship, the thought of finally receiving genuine help felt almost overwhelming. She met Vanessa's eyes, her expression vulnerable yet deeply moved. What if I can't repay you? Ellie whispered softly, voicing her deepest fear. Vanessa's eyes filled gently with compassion, her words warm and sincere. You've already given me something priceless, Ellie. Real friendship, real trust. I need nothing more. Ellie's heart swelled painfully with gratitude, her vision blurring gently as tears finally spilled softly down her cheeks. Thank you, Vanessa, she breathed, her voice filled with quiet wonder and relief. I don't know how to thank you enough. Vanessa reached out gently, squeezing Ellie's trembling hands reassuringly. You deserve this, Ellie. All of it. Now it's your turn to finally let yourself dream again. As Ellie sat quietly beside Vanessa, she felt something inside her shifting profoundly. Years of struggle and sacrifice had left her too cautious to hope, yet now, because of Vanessa's generosity, a future filled with possibility had finally appeared, bright, real, and beautifully within reach. Ellie sat quietly by her bedroom window that night, staring blankly at the glowing lights of the city beyond. Vanessa's extraordinary offer echoed loudly in her mind, swirling restlessly among the doubts and fears she'd long kept buried beneath the surface. Her pride battled fiercely with hope, each vying for dominance within her aching chest. From the tiny living room she could hear Alex gently reading Ava a bedtime story, their soft voices filled with innocent laughter and comfort. Ellie closed her eyes briefly, a sharp pang twisting her heart. Could she really afford to refuse Vanessa's help? The scholarship and financial support would mean security for her siblings, a future filled with opportunities she'd never imagined possible for them. Yet, deep inside, Ellie felt a quiet unease. Her life had been a relentless battle, an endless cycle of struggle. But through it all, she'd built strength, resilience, independence. Accepting Vanessa's offer felt like admitting defeat, as though her own hard work had never been enough. Would accepting charity erase the pride she had painstakingly earned over years of sacrifice? She leaned forward, resting her forehead against the cool glass of the window pane, her breath fogging softly against its surface. Tears of frustration blurred her vision, her thoughts spiraling in tangled circles of self-doubt. Ellie had learned early on to rely only on herself, fiercely guarding the independence that defined her, unwilling to be anyone's burden. A gentle knock at her door startled her from her troubled thoughts. She quickly wiped her tears, turning to see Alex standing hesitantly in the doorway, concern flickering openly across his young face. "Are you okay, Ellie?" he asked quietly, stepping slowly into the small room. Ellie forced a reassuring smile, her voice softly gentle. "I'm fine, Alex. Just tired." Alex hesitated, clearly sensing more beneath her careful facade. "You don't always have to be strong for us," he whispered, eyes filled with quiet maturity far beyond his years. Sometimes it's okay to let someone else help. His words pierced deeply, cutting through her stubborn pride. Ellie reached out, gently pulling Alex into a tight, grateful embrace, allowing herself, for just a moment, to feel vulnerable. "Thank you," she murmured softly, voice trembling with quiet emotion. Later, when Alex had gone back to bed, Ellie sat in silence, reflecting carefully. Vanessa's offer wasn't about charity, she realized slowly. It was about trust, friendship, and support. Accepting help didn't erase her strength. Rather, it honored the struggle she'd endured, validating the battles she'd fought alone for so long. Ellie took a slow, steadying breath, feeling clarity finally cut through the tangled uncertainty within her. Accepting Vanessa's help wasn't surrender. It was courage. It was the bravery to finally let someone else share the weight she'd carried alone for too long. And maybe, she thought softly, it was time she allowed herself that kindness. Ellie walked home from the bookstore through the dimly lit streets, the chilly night air biting at her skin. Her footsteps echoed softly against the pavement, mingling with the distant murmur of traffic. As she approached her apartment building, something felt wrong. An uneasy tightness coiled in the pit of her stomach, intensifying with every step. As Ellie climbed the staircase, she spotted her neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, standing anxiously outside her apartment door. The elderly woman's face was pale, her eyes wide with worry. Ellie's heart jolted, fear squeezing her chest as she quickened her pace. "Mrs. Thompson," Ellie called out, voice tight with urgency, "is everything okay?" "Oh, Ellie," Mrs. Thompson said weakly, her voice trembling. "It's Ava. She's had a fall. I tried to help her, but she hurt her arm badly. Alex is with her now." A wave of panic surged through Ellie, heart hammering as she quickly pushed past, rushing inside. She found Ava sitting on the worn couch, her tiny face streaked with tears, cradling her arm tightly to her chest. Alex sat helplessly beside her, eyes dark with worry. "Ava, honey," Ellie whispered softly, dropping to her knees in front of her sister, gently brushing away her tears. "What happened?" "I was climbing, trying to reach the cookies," Ava sniffled quietly. "I slipped. My arm hurts, Ellie." Ellie gently inspected Ava's arm, feeling a sickening knot of dread as she saw the swelling around her little sister's wrist. It looked serious, something that would require medical attention Ellie couldn't afford. Her mind raced frantically, panic threatening to overwhelm her. She took a shaky breath, desperately trying to hide her fear. "It's okay, sweetheart, we'll fix this, I promise." Ellie stood, turning quickly to Alex, her voice low and urgent. "Stay with Ava. Keep her calm. I'll call a taxi. We have to get her checked out." Within minutes they were at the hospital, Ava's small body trembling softly as Ellie held her hand tightly. Hours passed in anxious silence, Ellie pacing the sterile hospital corridors, her mind spinning desperately. When the doctor finally approached, Ellie braced herself, heart pounding. "Her wrist is fractured," he explained gently. "She'll need treatment, possibly surgery. The sooner, the better." Ellie felt the blood drain from her face, her chest tightening painfully as despair flooded through her. The cost was impossible. Her throat closed, tears welling painfully behind her eyes, threatening to spill over. She nodded numbly, quietly thanking the doctor, mind reeling. In the waiting room, Ellie sat trembling, face buried in her hands, desperately trying to contain the sob that rose sharply in her chest. Every barrier she'd carefully built, every ounce of strength she'd stubbornly held onto, crumbled violently in that moment. It was clear. She couldn't face this alone anymore. Slowly, with shaking fingers, Ellie took out her phone, scrolling until Vanessa's number appeared on the screen. Her heart twisted painfully, pride shattering under the unbearable weight of reality. As Vanessa picked up, Ellie's voice shook with quiet desperation, all resistance finally breaking. "Vanessa, I need your help. Ava's hurt, and I don't know what else to do." Vanessa's calm, reassuring voice instantly filled the line, steady and comforting. "Ellie, stay calm. I'm coming right now." As Ellie hung up, the fragile dam holding back her tears finally burst, emotion pouring freely down her cheeks. Yet, in the darkness of her lowest moment, she felt a glimmer of hope, a lifeline cast by Vanessa, promising that this time she wouldn't have to face the darkness alone. Ellie sat anxiously in the quiet hospital waiting room, the harsh fluorescent lights casting a cold glare across the pale walls. Her hands trembled slightly, clutching a worn cup of untouched coffee. Her thoughts raced restlessly, fear mingling painfully with guilt, as she replayed Ava's frightened face in her mind. Suddenly, she felt a gentle touch on her shoulder and looked up quickly to see Vanessa standing there, eyes filled with genuine concern. "Oh, Vanessa," Ellie whispered softly, relief flooding her voice as tears blurred her vision once more. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," Vanessa said gently, sitting beside Ellie, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "How's Ava doing?" Ellie took a shaky breath, attempting to steady herself. "She fractured her wrist. They say she'll need surgery, and the cost—" Her voice trailed off helplessly, shame staining her cheeks crimson. Vanessa squeezed Ellie's hand softly, her voice steady and firm. "Ellie, listen to me. You don't have to face this alone. Let me help. Please." Ellie's eyes brimmed painfully with tears, pride warring fiercely with desperation. She hesitated, looking down at their joined hands. I don't know how to accept this. I've always taken care of them myself. If I accept your help, does that mean I'm weak?" "No," Vanessa murmured quietly, her voice filled with sincerity. "Ellie, accepting help isn't weakness. It's bravery. It's strength. Let me do this, not because you can't handle it, but because you don't have to do it alone anymore." The words resonated deeply in Ellie's heart, unraveling years of stubborn resistance. She looked up, finally allowing herself to meet Vanessa's sincere gaze. "All right," Ellie breathed softly, voice trembling with quiet surrender. "I'll accept your help for Ava and Alex and for me too." Vanessa smiled warmly, eyes shimmering with quiet pride. "You've made the right decision, Ellie. You won't regret this." Days later, Ellie watched quietly from the doorway as Vanessa gently comforted Ava after her surgery, reading her favorite stories, making her laugh softly despite the discomfort. Alex sat nearby, smiling shyly as he listened, clearly feeling safe, secure, happier than Ellie had seen him in months. Watching her siblings thrive under Vanessa's genuine care, Ellie felt her heart swell softly. Accepting help hadn't weakened her. It had opened doors she'd never imagined possible. Her siblings now had opportunities she alone could never provide, and the growing bond between her family and Vanessa felt profoundly genuine. Later, alone together, Ellie turned to Vanessa, voice filled with gentle sincerity. "Thank you, Vanessa, not just for helping with Ava, but for everything." Vanessa's expression softened, eyes glowing warmly. "Ellie, it's you who's given me something precious, real friendship. Trust. You and your family remind me what truly matters." Ellie smiled softly, realizing their relationship had shifted deeply, from employer and employee, from cautious acquaintances, to genuine friends bonded by sincerity, compassion, and mutual trust. As Ellie sat quietly with Vanessa in the soft evening silence, her heart finally felt lighter. The decisive step she'd feared most had brought unexpected strength and warmth, forever changing her life, and Vanessa's too, in ways neither had ever anticipated. Vanessa stood quietly at the edge of the small park near Ellie's apartment, watching with a soft smile as Alex and Ava laughed and played in the gentle afternoon sunlight. Ellie sat nearby, her expression relaxed in a way Vanessa had never seen before, eyes shining with quiet happiness, her laughter ringing clear and carefree as she cheered on her siblings. Vanessa felt an unexpected warmth rising softly in her chest, a profound joy blossoming inside her as she observed the transformation taking place in front of her eyes. Ellie's shoulders no longer hunched under the relentless weight of worry and exhaustion. Instead, she stood taller, confidence radiating gently from her every gesture. Ellie glanced up, catching Vanessa's gaze, her face immediately brightening into a warm smile of gratitude. She approached quietly, voice filled with genuine sincerity. "Thank you again, Vanessa. I never imagined life could feel this peaceful." Vanessa felt a gentle lump form in her throat, deeply touched. "You deserve it, Ellie. Seeing you all happy, that's worth more to me than you could ever imagine." Ellie nodded softly, eyes shimmering gently. "I don't know if you fully understand how much your help has meant. Alex is thriving in school now, Ava's finally healthy and safe. And me? I'm finally able to dream again." Vanessa's eyes misted softly, moved by Ellie's quiet strength and vulnerability. "Watching your family heal, seeing you happy again, it's healed something inside me too, Ellie. You've given me more than you'll ever know." They stood together quietly, watching as Alex chased Ava across the soft grass, both children laughing joyously, carefree for the first time in years. Vanessa felt a long, dormant happiness stirring deeply within her, a warmth she hadn't realized she'd missed so profoundly until now. The heavy loneliness she'd carried for years was finally melting away, replaced by genuine connection and sincere joy. Later, as the sun began to set, casting a golden glow across the park, Ellie gently placed a hand on Vanessa's arm, voice softly serious. "I know you've always been generous to us, but please, promise me you're letting yourself be happy too. You deserve that just as much as we do." Vanessa paused, her heart twisting gently with emotion. "For years I believed wealth meant isolation, that happiness was beyond my reach. But watching your courage and strength, Ellie, has shown me otherwise. You've given me hope again. I'm happy, truly happy because of you." Ellie squeezed Vanessa's hand gently, eyes filled with quiet pride and warmth. "We're family now, and family takes care of each other." As Vanessa stood quietly with Ellie, watching the sky slowly darken to shades of deep violet and soft orange, she realized with clarity that this joyous transformation wasn't just about Ellie's family. It was also her own heart finally opening, healing, allowing genuine happiness to bloom softly within her for the first time in years. Vanessa sat quietly in her spacious living room, staring at the softly glowing fireplace, feeling a rare moment of peace. But the tranquility shattered abruptly with a sudden knock at the door, sharp, demanding, and unmistakably familiar. She felt her heart tighten immediately, dread pooling in her chest as she rose slowly to answer. Standing in the doorway, dressed in perfectly tailored clothing and an expression of cold disapproval, was her older brother Jonathan. Beside him stood their younger sister Elizabeth, her eyes carefully guarded, her smile tense. "Vanessa," Jonathan said coldly, stepping past her without waiting for an invitation, "we need to talk." Vanessa followed them into the living room, her heart beating faster, anxiety prickling beneath her calm exterior. "What brings you here?" she asked cautiously, sensing trouble beneath their carefully composed expressions. Jonathan wasted no time turning sharply toward her, voice clipped and critical. "We've heard some troubling rumors about this young woman Ellie. Is it true you're giving away a fortune to her?" Vanessa felt anger flare protectively inside her. "Ellie isn't just some young woman," she replied steadily, eyes firm. "She's my friend, and I'm simply helping her and her family." Elizabeth glanced uneasily between her siblings, clearly uncomfortable but hesitant to speak up. Jonathan's gaze sharpened further, suspicion darkening his eyes. "Your friend? Really, Vanessa, don't be naive. People only want your money. How do you know she isn't just using you?" "Ellie isn't like that," Vanessa responded quietly but firmly, struggling to maintain composure against the familiar sting of judgment from her own family. "She has never asked me for anything. She was there for me when none of you ever were." Jonathan scoffed harshly, shaking his head dismissively. You're being reckless. People will talk, Vanessa. They'll assume you're throwing away our family fortune on someone who could be manipulating you. Vanessa's heart clenched painfully, hurt and frustration building sharply inside her chest. Our fortune? You mean the money none of you earned, yet eagerly spent while criticizing my decisions? Her voice rose slightly, trembling with pent-up emotion. I finally found someone genuine, someone who sees me for who I am, and you come here accusing her of deceit? Elizabeth stepped forward hesitantly, attempting to soften the tension. Vanessa, please, we're just concerned. We don't want you to get hurt. But Vanessa shook her head bitterly, eyes burning with restrained anger. You've barely spoken to me in years, Elizabeth. Suddenly, you're worried about my feelings? Ellie has shown me more care and respect than you ever have. Jonathan glared coldly, voice sharp with resentment. Don't say we didn't warn you. When she betrays your trust, don't expect our sympathy. After they stormed out, Vanessa sank weakly onto her couch, trembling with a mix of anger and doubt. She didn't believe their cruel accusations about Ellie, but still their words had pierced deeply, sowing poisonous seeds of doubt in her heart. Was she being naive? Could Ellie really be deceiving her? As she stared into the dying embers, tears blurred her vision, frustration mixing with shame at her own uncertainty. Despite her deep trust in Ellie, her family's cutting accusations had shaken her resolve. Vanessa felt isolated once again, caught between loyalty to the only genuine friend she'd ever known and the harsh, familiar judgment of a family who'd never truly understood her. Ellie stood behind the bookstore counter, arranging books thoughtfully when the door suddenly swung open, the gentle chime abruptly silenced by heavy footsteps. She glanced up quickly, immediately recognizing Jonathan and Elizabeth from the photos she glimpsed in Vanessa's home. Their sharp gazes settled on her, carrying unmistakable hostility. You must be Ellie, Jonathan began coldly, stepping closer, his polished shoes echoing against the polished floors. We need to talk about your relationship with our sister. Ellie swallowed nervously, heart pounding beneath her calm exterior. Vanessa isn't here right now. Is there something I can help you with? Elizabeth spoke softly, yet her words carried a subtle edge. Yes, you can explain why you've accepted so much money from Vanessa. Do you usually take advantage of vulnerable, lonely women? Ellie flinched inwardly, stung deeply by the accusation, yet lifted her chin bravely, eyes unwavering. I've never asked Vanessa for anything. She offered her help freely, and I deeply respect her. Jonathan scoffed sharply, voice dripping with disdain. Respect? You've wormed your way into her life, convinced her to hand over our family's wealth, money that isn't yours. Ellie's hands trembled slightly beneath the counter, anger simmering fiercely beneath her careful composure. I've accepted Vanessa's help because she insisted, because she saw I needed it. Not once have I deceived or pressured her. She reached out to me out of kindness, something your family clearly doesn't understand. Jonathan's eyes narrowed dangerously, leaning forward aggressively. Kindness? Or perhaps you've manipulated her loneliness? Vanessa has always been naive. Ellie's voice rose sharply, courage flaring brightly within her. Vanessa isn't naive. She's generous and sincere. She sees people clearly for who they truly are. If you really cared, you'd be proud of her compassion instead of questioning her judgment. Elizabeth hesitated, uncertainty briefly flickering across her carefully guarded expression. But Jonathan remained unyielding, eyes cold with disdain. You're quite convincing, Ellie, but we won't allow you to exploit her further. The tension shattered abruptly as the bookstore door opened again, revealing Vanessa standing rigidly in the doorway, face pale but eyes blazing fiercely. That's enough, she stated sharply, voice quiet yet filled with authority. Jonathan turned quickly, startled, yet masking his surprise beneath arrogance. Vanessa, we're here for your own good, can't you see? No, Vanessa interrupted firmly, stepping beside Ellie protectively. You don't get to accuse Ellie of anything. She's done nothing but support me, genuinely and selflessly. Qualities you've never shown." Jonathan stiffened, fury darkening his expression, as Elizabeth stepped back silently. Vanessa met his gaze steadily, unafraid. "Ellie is my friend, one of the few genuine connections I've ever had. If you truly care, you'll respect that." Jonathan glared silently, finally turning sharply and stalking out, Elizabeth trailing quietly behind, offering a brief, apologetic glance toward Ellie as she left. As the door closed, Vanessa turned slowly toward Ellie, eyes shimmering gently with emotion. "Ellie, I'm so sorry you had to face that," Vanessa whispered softly, voice thick with regret. Ellie reached out gently, squeezing Vanessa's trembling hand reassuringly. "Vanessa, I'd defend you against anyone, anytime. I meant everything I said. Your generosity and friendship mean everything to me." Vanessa's eyes filled quietly, relief and gratitude washing gently over her features. In that moment, Vanessa felt a profound sense of loyalty she'd rarely known. Ellie had proven her sincerity, courageously defending her even when faced with cruel accusations. And Vanessa knew clearly that Ellie's loyalty, her unwavering, genuine support, was something truly precious, a bond nothing and no one could ever break. Ellie carefully placed a steaming mug of tea into Vanessa's trembling hands, gently sitting beside her on the soft couch in the bookstore's quiet back room. Vanessa stared silently into the rising steam, exhaustion and sadness etched deeply in her expression. The confrontation with her siblings had drained her, leaving behind a raw ache that lingered in her heart. "Vanessa," Ellie began softly, voice filled with gentle concern, "you shouldn't let things end this way with your family. Despite everything they've said, they're still your brother and sister." Vanessa shook her head slowly, voice barely audible. "They've made their choice clear, Ellie. They've never understood me. Trying to fix it now seems pointless." Ellie reached out, gently placing her hand over Vanessa's, warmth radiating softly from her touch. "I know they've hurt you deeply, but family bonds, even strained ones, are important. You'll regret it if you don't at least try." Vanessa met Ellie's earnest gaze, vulnerability shimmering openly in her tired eyes. "I've tried so many times. It's always the same. They only see me as naive, easily manipulated." Ellie leaned forward slightly, voice steady and compassionate. "Maybe this time can be different. Let me help. We'll do it together." Vanessa hesitated, torn between lingering hurt and a fragile spark of hope ignited by Ellie's unwavering support. Finally, she sighed softly, surrendering gently. "All right, Ellie, I'll try, but only if you're there with me." Days later, Ellie nervously welcomed Jonathan and Elizabeth into the bookstore after hours, the tension palpable as Vanessa stood quietly nearby, anxiety etched clearly in her posture. Jonathan's expression remained skeptical. Elizabeth guarded but curious as they cautiously took seats opposite Vanessa. Ellie stepped forward gently, voice calm yet firm, breaking the heavy silence. "Thank you all for being here. I know there's pain between you, but I also believe there's love. Vanessa deeply cares about you both, and I think, deep down, you care about her too." Jonathan shifted uncomfortably, eyes flickering briefly toward his sister. "Vanessa has always made reckless decisions. We've only ever wanted to protect her." Vanessa's voice shook softly, yet held quiet strength. "Protect me, Jonathan, or control me. I've always tried to gain your approval, to be understood by you, but you only see what you want to see." Elizabeth finally spoke softly, voice carrying quiet emotion. "Vanessa, we were wrong to judge you, and Ellie, so harshly. But you never let us in either. You've always kept us at arm's length." Vanessa looked away briefly, emotion shimmering in her eyes. "Because I feared your judgment, Elizabeth. I've spent my life isolated, unable to trust anyone, until Ellie showed me genuine kindness. She's helped me understand what real family, real love, looks like. Jonathan's expression softened subtly, uncertainty flickering briefly across his stern features. Ellie gently stepped closer, voice steady, yet gentle. Maybe it's time for honesty. No accusations, no walls, just truth. You all deserve better than this. Silence filled the room, heavy with unspoken emotions. Finally, Jonathan sighed deeply, voice quiet but sincere. Maybe we all do. Vanessa felt tears gather softly in her eyes, relief flooding gently through her heart. Ellie had bridged the painful gap between them, courageously stepping forward as mediator, helping them finally confront truths they'd long buried beneath bitterness and pride. As Vanessa quietly thanked Ellie with a gentle, grateful glance, she realized clearly that Ellie's presence had not only healed her friendship, it was now slowly, gently mending her broken family, rebuilding bonds she'd believed irreparable. Vanessa stood hesitantly at the edge of her living room, heart beating rapidly, a nervous tightness settling gently in her chest. The atmosphere felt tense, yet charged with fragile hope. Ellie had insisted this reunion would be a step toward healing, but Vanessa felt vulnerable, uncertain if reconciliation was truly possible after years of bitterness. Across the room, Jonathan and Elizabeth stood quietly, their expressions guarded, yet softer than she'd seen in years. Jonathan finally broke the heavy silence, stepping forward slowly, his voice gentle and cautiously sincere. "Vanessa, we've spent so many years blaming each other," he began softly, eyes carefully meeting hers. "Maybe it's time we finally understand each other instead." Vanessa felt a subtle warmth flicker in her chest, the icy wall around her heart slowly beginning to thaw. She nodded quietly, her voice carrying quiet vulnerability. "I've spent so long feeling isolated from both of you, I thought you'd never truly accept who I am." Elizabeth approached gently, reaching out hesitantly to touch Vanessa's hand, her voice quiet yet deeply earnest. "We misunderstood you, Vanessa. We saw only your wealth, your privilege, and forgot you were human too. We never realized how lonely you must have been." Vanessa's breath caught softly, tears shimmering gently in her eyes. "I felt so judged, so alone. Ellie was the first person who made me feel truly seen. I wanted that from you both, but I didn't know how to ask." Jonathan sighed quietly, regret clearly etched in his expression. "We failed you, Vanessa, our judgment, our pride. It blinded us to the sister who needed us. I'm sorry." Tears slipped quietly down Vanessa's cheeks, emotion gently overwhelming her. "I'm sorry too," she whispered softly. "Sorry I pushed you both away." Ellie watched quietly from a discreet distance, heart swelling softly with pride and relief as she saw the broken bonds slowly mending between them. Jonathan glanced toward Ellie briefly, voice sincere as he spoke quietly to Vanessa. "Ellie showed us something important, that true kindness, real family, isn't measured by wealth or status, but by how we care for each other." Elizabeth nodded gently, squeezing Vanessa's hand warmly. "We want to start again. We want to understand you, support you, Vanessa, if you'll let us." Vanessa felt the protective barriers she'd built so carefully around her heart finally crumble completely. She stepped forward, pulling her siblings into a tentative embrace, feeling years of pain and misunderstanding begin to dissolve in the warmth of that shared moment. As they separated gently, Jonathan turned toward Ellie, eyes carrying genuine gratitude. "Thank you, Ellie, for everything you've done for our family." Ellie smiled softly, voice quietly sincere. "It was Vanessa who brought you together. I just reminded you all how much you mean to each other." Later, when the quiet evening settled gently around them, Vanessa approached Ellie privately, voice trembling gently with emotion. "You gave me my family back, Ellie. You've given me so much more than I ever imagined." Ellie squeezed Vanessa's hand reassuringly, eyes warm and kind. "You deserve it, Vanessa. All the happiness, all the love." Standing quietly together, Vanessa felt deeply grateful for the profound gift Ellie had quietly brought into her life. Not just friendship, but the gentle healing of bonds she'd believed lost forever. Sunlight streamed gently through the cafe windows, illuminating the crowded room filled with regular patrons and curious neighbors alike. Ellie stood nervously behind the counter, her heart fluttering anxiously in her chest. Vanessa had insisted she attend today's special announcement, but the anticipation was almost overwhelming, leaving Ellie's hands trembling gently beneath the counter. Vanessa stepped confidently to the center of the cafe, drawing the crowd's attention effortlessly. Ellie admired the quiet strength that now radiated openly from her friend, a strength born from deep vulnerability and genuine connection. "Thank you all for being here today," Vanessa began warmly, her gentle voice steady yet charged with excitement. "As many of you know, this cafe has long been a special place in our community, a place where kindness, compassion, and friendship bloom daily." Ellie felt her cheeks flush softly, warmth spreading through her chest as Vanessa's gaze briefly caught hers, filled with genuine affection and pride. Vanessa continued, voice firm yet deeply emotional. "Today I'm thrilled to announce a major investment into the cafe. We'll be renovating and expanding, ensuring this place continues to thrive and serve our community for years to come." Murmurs of excitement rippled gently through the gathered crowd, but Vanessa raised her hand slightly, signaling she had more to say. Her eyes shone brightly, filled with sincerity and gratitude. However, the true heart of this cafe has always been its people, especially Ellie. Vanessa turned gently, meeting Ellie's startled gaze. "Ellie, your kindness and compassion have inspired me profoundly. You've given tirelessly to this cafe, to your family, and to this community without expecting recognition." Ellie felt her throat tighten, heart racing with emotion, as all eyes turned warmly toward her. "That's why," Vanessa continued warmly, voice steady yet deeply sincere, "I am placing Ellie in charge as the cafe's manager. She'll have full responsibility, stability, and security here, allowing her to continue doing what she does best, supporting, inspiring, and caring for everyone around her." Gasps and quiet applause filled the cafe, yet Ellie stood frozen, tears shimmering gently in her eyes. She stepped forward slowly, voice trembling softly. "Vanessa, this is so much. Are you sure?" Vanessa smiled warmly, stepping forward and gently grasping Ellie's hand. "I've never been more certain. You've taught me what real strength, courage, and kindness look like, Ellie. This cafe deserves someone like you." Ellie glanced around the crowded room, meeting the eyes of neighbors and friends, all nodding and smiling warmly in genuine support. A profound warmth filled her chest, tears slipping softly down her cheeks as she squeezed Vanessa's hand tightly. "I promise," Ellie whispered quietly yet firmly, "I'll never let you down." Vanessa squeezed her hand reassuringly, eyes shining brightly. "You never could." As the crowd erupted into applause, Ellie stood beside Vanessa, heart swelling powerfully with gratitude, pride, and relief. Vanessa's announcement had transformed not just the cafe, but Ellie's entire future, providing stability and opportunity she'd never imagined possible. In that moment, Ellie realized clearly that Vanessa's generosity extended far beyond financial support. It was the sincere gift of trust, friendship, and genuine belief in her worth, forever changing Ellie's life and solidifying an unbreakable bond between them. Ellie unlocked the door to her newly renovated apartment, pausing briefly in the doorway as her eyes took in the fresh paint, soft carpets, and the gentle afternoon sunlight streaming warmly through wide windows. For the first time in years, a sense of true stability enveloped her, washing over her in waves of quiet relief and gratitude. Alex and Ava raced eagerly past her, laughter filling the once gloomy rooms as they excitedly explored their new home. Ellie felt her heart swell softly with happiness, deeply moved by the simple joy lighting their faces. They finally had a place they could truly call home, a safe, comfortable space filled with possibilities she'd once only dreamed of providing. Later that afternoon, as Ellie unpacked carefully in the cozy new kitchen, Vanessa arrived, carrying a beautifully wrapped package and wearing a gentle smile of quiet pride. "Congratulations, Ellie," Vanessa said warmly, placing the gift gently on the counter. "You deserve every bit of happiness." Ellie turned slowly, eyes shimmering softly. "None of this would have happened without you, Vanessa. You've changed our lives." Vanessa shook her head gently, her voice quiet yet profoundly sincere. "You changed mine first, Ellie. You showed me how to truly live, to trust again, to see the goodness in others, and myself. I should thank you." Ellie stepped forward, carefully embracing Vanessa, emotion catching softly in her throat. "I'm so grateful for your friendship. You've given us more than just security. You've given us hope." In the following weeks, Ellie blossomed beautifully into her new role managing the cafe, a quiet confidence and gentle authority now coloring her every interaction. Customers noticed the cafe's renewed warmth and charm, drawn not just by the renovations, but by Ellie's genuine spirit and compassion. Meanwhile, Vanessa had found a powerful new sense of purpose, quietly dedicating herself to philanthropy, channeling her resources and influence toward helping others in need. Inspired by Ellie's example, Vanessa focused on initiatives supporting struggling families and vulnerable communities, genuinely fulfilled by finally making a difference that felt truly meaningful. One afternoon, Vanessa visited the cafe, watching quietly from the doorway as Ellie expertly balanced work and warmth, her gentle laughter floating lightly through the busy room. Vanessa felt profound happiness bloom quietly within her chest, deeply satisfied to see Ellie thriving fully, her dreams finally realized. Ellie spotted Vanessa and approached warmly, eyes sparkling with genuine joy. "I've never been happier, Vanessa. Alex and Ava are thriving, the cafe is successful, and for the first time ever, I feel truly at peace." Vanessa smiled gently, her heart swelling softly with pride. "Seeing you fulfill your dreams has given me something precious, Ellie. A purpose I've been searching for my entire life. Thank you." Ellie squeezed her hand softly, sincerity glowing brightly in her gaze. "Together, we've built something amazing. Not just stability and success, but friendship, trust, and hope. I'm so glad you're part of our family now." As Vanessa watched Ellie return gracefully to her customers, warmth filled her deeply. Ellie's journey from struggle to stability, from isolation to happiness, had profoundly inspired Vanessa's own transformation. And together, through genuine kindness and sincere friendship, they had discovered that true fulfillment came not from wealth or status, but from compassion, generosity, and love shared openly and freely. Ellie stood quietly in front of the modest community center, her heart racing softly with a mix of excitement and nerves. Beside her, Alex and Ava bounced lightly on their toes, eyes wide with anticipation. It was the opening day of the initiative Ellie had dreamed of for months, a community pantry and support center, inspired directly by the quiet kindness and profound generosity Vanessa had shown her family. Vanessa stood proudly nearby, her expression deeply touched, as Ellie stepped forward to address the small crowd gathered in support. "Thank you all for coming today," Ellie began gently, her voice steady despite the quiet emotion in her eyes. "This community center means so much, not just to me, but to anyone who's ever faced hardship or loneliness. It's a place where kindness is freely given, no questions asked." Her gaze briefly met Vanessa's, warmth and gratitude glowing brightly between them. "I learned firsthand how powerful a single act of kindness can be. Someone showed me genuine compassion when I needed it most. And now it's my turn to pay that kindness forward." Murmurs of approval rippled warmly through the crowd, and Ellie felt her heart swell softly, knowing she had their support. As the ribbon was cut, Ellie welcomed neighbors and strangers alike, offering boxes of groceries, gently providing guidance to families in crisis, offering quiet encouragement to those too proud to ask directly. She saw herself reflected clearly in their cautious, hopeful eyes, feeling deeply connected through shared struggles. Later that day, as Ellie organized shelves inside, she noticed a young mother lingering hesitantly by the doorway, a small child clutching her hand tightly. Ellie immediately recognized the cautious, anxious look, one she herself had worn so many times before. Gently approaching, she offered a warm, reassuring smile. "You're welcome here," Ellie said softly, carefully placing groceries into the woman's trembling hands. "Take whatever you need." The young woman's eyes filled quietly with tears of relief and gratitude, her whispered voice shaking softly. Thank you so much." Ellie gently squeezed her hand, understanding deeply. "Someone once showed me kindness when I felt alone, and it changed my life. This center is here because everyone deserves compassion and support." From a distance, Vanessa watched quietly, deeply moved by Ellie's sincere generosity. She approached gently afterward, voice soft, yet filled with quiet pride. "Ellie, this is incredible. You've created something truly special here." Ellie smiled softly, sincerity shining brightly in her eyes. "It's all thanks to you, Vanessa. Your generosity taught me how powerful kindness can be. Now I want others to experience that same feeling." Vanessa felt warmth blossom softly in her chest, profoundly touched. "You've not only paid it forward, Ellie, you've multiplied it. The kindness you've shown today will ripple through this community for years." Ellie nodded gently, emotion shimmering quietly in her eyes. "I hope so. This initiative isn't just about me. It's about spreading hope and compassion to everyone." As the sun set gently over the small community center, Ellie stood quietly with Vanessa, heart filled with a profound sense of purpose and fulfillment. She'd turned her struggles into strength, her hardships into hope, transforming Vanessa's kindness into a legacy that would continue spreading, touching countless lives with genuine generosity and sincere compassion. Soft strings of lights gently illuminated the cozy community center, casting warm, golden reflections across the smiling faces filling the room. Soft laughter and heartfelt conversations drifted through the space, creating an atmosphere charged with genuine warmth and quiet celebration. Ellie stood near the doorway, heart swelling gently with emotion, as she watched the room filled with neighbors, friends, and families, each person touched deeply by kindness, generosity, and love. Beside her stood Vanessa, smiling softly yet radiating quiet pride. Jonathan and Elizabeth mingled comfortably nearby, their laughter blending warmly with those around them, proof of the profound changes that had transformed their once distant family into a genuinely united one. Vanessa turned gently toward Ellie, voice filled with quiet sincerity. "You did this, Ellie. Look around. This entire community has been changed because of your courage and compassion." Ellie smiled softly, emotion shimmering quietly in her eyes. "It's all because of you, Vanessa. Your generosity, your belief in me, that's what made this possible." Vanessa shook her head gently, eyes glowing warmly. "You showed me how kindness can heal and connect. Watching you create this, seeing how many lives you've touched, it's the greatest gift I've ever received." Ellie's eyes filled gently, gratitude and pride mingling softly in her chest. Across the room, Alex and Ava laughed freely, playing games with other children, their faces alight with carefree joy Ellie had long dreamed of seeing. Jonathan approached quietly, gently placing a hand on Vanessa's shoulder, voice steady yet filled with sincere emotion. "Vanessa, Ellie, I owe you both an apology and a thank you. You've reminded our family what truly matters. It's not wealth or status, but genuine compassion and connection." Elizabeth joined them, eyes bright with warmth and sincerity. "We were lost, and Ellie helped us find our way back. You both taught us the real meaning of family." Ellie's heart twisted gently with deep emotion, gratitude swelling softly in her chest. "We found each other," she murmured softly, eyes shimmering. "That's what family really is, people who choose to stand by each other, through everything." As the evening unfolded gently, Ellie saw clearly how their community had transformed profoundly through collective kindness. Friends and neighbors spoke softly, sharing stories of Ellie's compassion, Vanessa's generosity, and the quiet yet powerful changes they'd inspired together. Toward the end of the night, Ellie stepped forward quietly, voice steady yet gently emotional as the crowd turned warmly toward her. "Tonight isn't just about celebration, it's about gratitude. Every single one of you has shown me kindness, strength, and genuine support. Together, we've created something beautiful, a community built on compassion and hope." She glanced warmly toward Vanessa, voice catching gently in her throat. "Vanessa taught me the power of generosity and kindness. Her heart inspired mine, and together we've created something lasting and meaningful." The room erupted gently into heartfelt applause, Vanessa smiling softly through tears of gratitude and pride. Ellie moved quietly to embrace her, warmth flooding powerfully through both their hearts. Standing together in that gentle celebration, Ellie realized clearly how far they'd all come, from isolation to connection, from hardship to happiness. It was a celebration not just of achievements or milestones, but of hearts profoundly transformed by kindness, friendship, and sincere love. A celebration they'd carry gently in their hearts forever. The cafe was quiet now, gentle shadows dancing softly in the dim glow of the evening lights. Ellie moved slowly through the empty room, carefully straightening chairs and wiping tables, the silence wrapping comfortably around her. Behind her, the door opened softly, and she turned, smiling warmly as Vanessa stepped quietly inside, carrying 2 cups of steaming tea. "I thought you might still be here," Vanessa murmured softly, setting the cups gently down, her eyes reflecting quiet affection. Ellie sighed softly, sitting down across from Vanessa, a gentle exhaustion settling lightly on her shoulders. "It's hard to leave sometimes. This place, it's become such a huge part of who I am." Vanessa nodded gently, eyes thoughtful and warm. "You've poured your heart into it. It shows, Ellie. You've created something truly special." Ellie met Vanessa's gaze, her voice quiet, yet deeply sincere. "I couldn't have done any of it without you. You've given me everything, stability, security, but most of all friendship. You changed my entire life." Vanessa's eyes shimmered softly with emotion, her voice quiet yet filled with deep gratitude. "Ellie, I spent years trapped in loneliness, surrounded by wealth but starving for genuine connection. Then I walked into this cafe, and your simple act of kindness changed everything." Ellie's throat tightened gently, heart swelling softly. "I had no idea then that you were about to change mine even more." Vanessa smiled softly, eyes shining gently in the quiet evening light. "You showed me a strength I never knew existed, a strength built on compassion, courage, and genuine kindness. Your friendship healed wounds I thought would never mend." Ellie reached gently across the table, squeezing Vanessa's hand softly, eyes glowing with quiet warmth. "You taught me to trust again, Vanessa, to believe in myself and to allow others into my heart. I can never thank you enough for that." They sat quietly, a comfortable silence settling gently between them, filled with unspoken gratitude and quiet affection. Vanessa finally spoke softly, her voice steady, yet filled with gentle vulnerability. "Do you ever think about how easily we might have missed each other? One moment, one small choice, our paths might never have crossed." Ellie nodded gently, voice softly reflective. "I think about it all the time, how close we came to living completely different lives. But somehow, it feels like we were always meant to find each other." Vanessa's eyes glistened softly, her voice gently emotional. I believe that too. Our friendship, it feels destined, Ellie. No matter what happens, the bond we've built will always hold strong. Ellie squeezed Vanessa's hand gently, voice steady and sincere. Always, Vanessa. You've become family to me, to Alex and Ava too. Nothing could ever break the bond we've created. Vanessa smiled gently, deeply touched, feeling quiet warmth and gratitude fill her heart. We've given each other strength and hope, things no amount of wealth could ever buy. You've shown me what really matters, Ellie. Sitting quietly together in the peaceful cafe, both women reflected gently on the profound ways they'd transformed each other's lives. Two strangers brought together by a single act of kindness, now forever bonded by friendship, compassion, and love. The unbreakable bond they shared was rooted in genuine sincerity, forged from struggles overcome together and strengthened through countless quiet moments of trust and understanding. One that neither time nor circumstance could ever diminish. The gentle morning sunlight filtered softly through the cafe windows, casting a warm, comforting glow over the bustling space. Ellie moved easily between the tables, greeting customers warmly, each interaction reflecting the quiet confidence and compassion that had become her hallmark. Her heart felt lighter these days, buoyed by stability and the fulfillment that came from knowing she was exactly where she was meant to be. As Ellie finished serving a regular customer, the gentle chime of the cafe door drew her attention. She turned toward it, noticing a young woman standing hesitantly in the doorway. Ellie recognized the expression immediately: embarrassment, vulnerability, exhaustion, the very emotions she herself had once carried heavily each day. The young woman carefully stepped forward, glancing anxiously around the room before quietly choosing a seat tucked away near the window. Ellie felt her heart twist gently with compassion, memories flooding softly back to the moment Vanessa had walked into her life, unknowingly changing its course forever. Ellie approached gently, her voice warm and welcoming. "Good morning," she said softly, offering a gentle smile. "What can I get for you?" The young woman hesitated, glancing nervously at the small menu, clearly anxious about something. "Just a coffee, please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Ellie noticed the quiet desperation in her eyes, recognizing herself vividly in this stranger's hesitant expression. Ellie quickly prepared the coffee, placing a fresh pastry gently onto the plate beside it, carefully approaching the woman's table once more. "I didn't order that," the woman protested softly, eyes flickering nervously toward Ellie. "It's on the house," Ellie said warmly, gently reassuring. "You look like you could use it, trust me, I've been there." The young woman's eyes filled gently with unexpected tears, her voice trembling softly. "Thank you. You have no idea how much I needed this kindness today." Ellie smiled warmly, her heart swelling gently with deep understanding. "Actually, I do," she murmured softly, sincerity glowing gently in her gaze. "Someone once showed me the same kindness when I least expected it. It changed everything." The young woman carefully sipped her coffee, visibly relaxing beneath Ellie's warm gaze. Ellie felt quietly emotional, deeply grateful to finally be the person offering comfort and kindness, continuing the beautiful cycle Vanessa had started with her. Later, Vanessa stepped into the cafe, pausing briefly as she watched Ellie, gently comforting the young woman, her eyes filled with quiet pride and warmth. Ellie approached Vanessa afterward, voice soft yet profoundly meaningful. "Today felt like a full-circle moment," Ellie said softly, eyes shimmering gently. "You changed my life, Vanessa. And now, because of your kindness, I can do the same for someone else." Vanessa's eyes filled quietly with gentle emotion, her voice steady yet deeply sincere. "This was always about more than just helping each other, Ellie. It was about creating a cycle of compassion and hope. You've done exactly that." Ellie squeezed Vanessa's hand gently, feeling immense gratitude and purpose flooding warmly through her heart. She glanced around the cafe, filled now with joy, warmth, and genuine connection. and realized clearly how profoundly her life had transformed. This new beginning wasn't just hers, it belonged to every person whose life would be touched, every kindness shared, every gentle act inspired by the quiet, compassionate moment when a struggling waitress and a secretly wealthy stranger crossed paths, forever changing not only their lives, but countless others who would follow.